Good afternoon, everyone. This meeting will come to order. I want to welcome you back to another meeting of the Land Use and Transportation Committee. My name is Supervisor Malia Cohen. I'm the chair of this committee, and to my right is Supervisor Scott Weiner, who is the vice chair, and to my left, vice chair to my left is Supervisor Jane Kim. Our clerk is Miss Andrea Osbury. She's also given me the names of Jonathan Stockhouse and Josh Alexander, who are providing their services by televising this committee meeting on SFGov TV. Madam Clerk, do you have any announcements for us today?
Yes, please silence all electronic devices. Completed speaker cards and copies of any documents to include as part of the file should be submitted to the clerk. Items acted upon today may appear on the May 5th, 2015 Board of Supervisors agenda unless otherwise stated.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, could you please call item number 1?
Yes, item number 1 is a resolution granting permission to the Arts Commission for street encroachment at the Newcomb Avenue frontage of 4705 3rd Street.
All right. So we have staff from the Arts Commission with us this afternoon to present on this item. Thank you, Ms. Nemzoff. Welcome.
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Judy Nemzoff. I'm the Director of Community Investments at the San Francisco Arts Commission. This project's been before you before. This is the final permitting that we need to complete the renovation on the Bayview Opera House. As you probably recall, this is on the National Register of Historic Places, and we are in the final phase of a $5.3 million renovation. Paid for almost exclusively by our city partners. So the motion in front of you today is simply for a street encroachment to allow room for the Walter Hood designed new contemporary stairway. We simply need the sidewalk access. And I do have an architectural drawing of it if you'd like to see it. Should I just...
Thank you.
Yes, unless you have further questions,
I have no further questions. Okay. I'm excited. Supervisor Kim was excited to see the rendering.
I want to see the light. What's that?
She wanted to see the lighted handrails.
Yes. It's a beautiful contemporary walkway that will really highlight the stature of the 1888 historic front. As I said, we're in construction now, final phase of construction. We hope to have you all at ribbon cutting sometime this fall.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the staff and the very talented artists that will be working on this project.
Thank you.
So, colleagues, is there a motion for this item?
Public comment.
I'm sorry, public comment first. Thank you, Ms. Nemzoff, for your presentation.
I'm very pleased to see you. You know how exciting to see you and along with Jane Kim and Scott Weiner today. I'm so overwhelmed. Let me express this. Today I shall declare the principle of little man, gentleman, and holy man in among social situations. Little man enjoy lost way from mothers. Gentlemen like good way of true games.
Mr. Yip,
Mr. Yip. I'm big connection.
Wait, no, Mr. Yip. Oh. See, public comment is so you can speak on the item.
Yes, but no, it's correct. But I prove it's a connected item. No, for me, let me comment this before I prove it's connection.
Please tell me how what you're reading connects to the street encroachment on Newcomb.
Because of transportation. Because we go along the Muni, bike lane, automobile, van, truck, our city. You see all these people. If that it's affecting your mind with how to judge this, how should you judge people? There's something like little man, gentleman, holy man. So if they could rationalize this problem, this will be all sent to general hospital, and we'll levy a big burden for the government to support people who are mind of nowhere, staying in general hospital. That will cause serious funding problem of the city hall.
Thank you.
Continue. Gentlemen like good way of true game in success for others. Holy men try to achieve the highest state of excellency of perfection in principles to perfect the universal perfection of others. Their statement that Mr. Mayor, would you guarantee that 3 meals a day for certain people without their too much worry, so they can secure their destiny and eat well with well-being at peace? Please answer my question immediately without further delay, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Idea of such after meeting Supervisor Julie Christensen yesterday at China Park, Personal Square by Chances that I spoke aloud to the Chinese people there.
Thank you. Really? Applause? Okay. Next speaker. Is there anyone that'd like to speak on this item? Nobody else wants to talk about a street encroachment in the Bayview? Okay. All right. So be it. Public comment is closed on this item. All right. Now, colleagues, I'd love to have a motion on this.
Motion with positive recommendation to the full board.
Thank you. Motion made by Supervisor Kim, positive recommendation, seconded by Supervisor Weiner, and without any further ado, this motion passes. Thank you, unanimously. All right, Madam Clerk, could you please call item number 2?
Item number 2 is a resolution exempting the competitive bidding policy, a real estate transaction between the port and Teatro Zinzani.
Thank you very much. Could you... Who's presenting on this item? Anyone? All right, item number 2. Thank you, sir. Please come on up.
All right. Thank you, Chair Cohen and Supervisors Weiner and Kim. My name is Ricky Tijani, Development Project Manager with the Port of San Francisco. I am here representing the Port Commission, which is requesting your consideration of a resolution authorizing the Port to enter negotiations with Teatro Zinzani and their project arm, TZK Broadway LLC, to develop and lease port land in the northern waterfront for a boutique hotel with a dinner theater. The resolution requests an exemption from the competitive bidding policy set forth in Administrative Code Section 2.6-1 for the potential real estate transaction involving the port property at Seawall Lots 324 and 323 on the west side of Embarcadero between Broadway and Vallejo Street. I have a map showing the location of the site. It's right there at the corner of Broadway and Embarcadero, and it consists of just those two parcels. Teatro Zinzani is a former port tenant. For 11 years, beginning in 2000, it operated as a successful cultural venue combining dinner and theater at Pier 27. During this period, it welcomed many performing artists and close to 1 million customers, and frequently partnered with charities. In 2011, the port asked Teatro to terminate its lease for Pier 27 and vacate their location at Pier 27 to accommodate the hosting of the 34th America's Cup and the construction of the new James R. Armour cruise terminal. By state law, the port is required to relocate tenants, including Teatro. After searching widely, it became clear that the best location to keep Teatro in San Francisco was a port site known as Seawall Lot 324. This is a 1.4-acre site at Broadway and Embarcadero that the picture is being shown on the screen that is currently operates as a surface parking lot. In 2011, Teatro began to work on how it could reopen at this site. It conducted an extensive outreach to seek comments and to address concerns about the site from community groups and stakeholders, including the Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association, Golden Gateway Commons, Chinese Community Development Center, Telegraph Hill Dwellers, Golden Gate Tenants Association, and many others. Seawall Lot 324 is a prominent site along the Embarcadero. Some community groups and stakeholders indicated that they prefer for Teatro to develop a project that will be a distinguished gateway between the neighborhood and the waterfront and Chinatown. The community also requested the site to be developed in a manner consistent with the Northeast Waterfront Historic District in terms of architectural character, zoning, and building massing. To be responsive to the community and the comments from the community, Teatro expanded its project to include our hotel with the theater and the public park. Prior public planning for this site called for a hotel at the site. Teatro has engaged an investment partner, and together they have formed a limited liability company called TZK Broadway LLC to develop the proposed project so that Teatro can return to San Francisco. The proposed uses, as indicated, are acceptable uses of the site in the land use regulations that cover the site, including the Port Waterfront Land Use Plan. The Port previously sought a development partner for a hotel on the site. The site continues to be recognized as ideal for hotel and entertainment uses because of its location attributes. The Board of Supervisors adopted a music and culture sustainability policy in Admin Code Chapter 90A, requiring city departments to undertake all feasible means to use city property to retain cultural and entertainment entities in San Francisco. This policy also promotes creative housing strategy for theater performers and artists. The proposed project meets the policy objectives of the Administrative Code 90A. In this requested exemption, if this requested exemption is approved, the Port will enter into an exclusive negotiation agreement with Teatro and TZK Broadway LLC to explore the feasibility of their proposal. If the parties are able to reach an agreement on deal terms, such terms will be summarized in a term sheet, and the term sheet or the proposed lease will be brought back to this board for its consideration and endorsement. Authorizing the Port to enter negotiation is not an approval of the proposed project. The project still needs to be refined through the public review process, including CEQA and design review. After the term sheet is endorsed, both the Port Commission and the Board of Supervisors must consider a long-term lease with terms including fair market consideration for the use of the property. If it is acceptable to the chair, I will now turn my presentation over to Teatro's representative to make some few remarks. I will be calling on Norma Langell and Annie Jemison and maybe one other person from your development partner. All right.
Great, thank
Is
you.
it okay? Thank
That is
you.
okay. Thank you. Please welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman Cohen and Supervisors Kim and Weiner. I am Norm Langell. I'm the President and Artistic Director of Teatro Zinzanni, and I was here and brought it to San Francisco in the year 2000. I'm here to speak, obviously, on behalf of the sole source resolution so that Teatro Zinzanni can return to San Francisco on Seawall 324 and 323. Our team is here today. It includes our supporting partners, Darius Anderson and Jay Wallace. Mark Hornberger, the architect, will be in charge of the project, and Teatro Zinzanni COO Annie Jameson. Also in the room are many supporters, neighbors, and past employees, and San Francisco artists who made Teatro Zinzanni a unique part of San Francisco's cultural life. I'm going to reduce my speech because the gentleman before me covered a lot of my points, so I'm going to try to hit on the ones that
We
may be
appreciate
unique
that.
to us. Yeah,
Let's get it to a vote.
right. It's true. When we started to pursue the project, we soon found that our plans to rebuild the site as it was 5 times more expensive than we originally had planned. Not only that, it was impossible to finance and to meet the standards of the neighborhood or to match the revenue requirements of the port. It's a simple fact that theaters do not generate enough revenue per square foot that you can get with an apartment or any other type private development. So we needed help, and the only real solution was to develop a multi-use concept for the site in which other businesses, their revenue could support the cost of construction and Teatro Zinzani's lease. A multi-use concept has been used successfully in a lot of other cities in the United States and around the world, such as the Lyric Opera in Chicago, the Guthrie Theatre in Minneapolis, and the Art Series hotels in Melbourne, Australia. At that time, realizing that's what we needed, I asked Darius Anderson, who's been a longtime supporter of Teatro Zinzani and helped bring us here in the year 2000, to partner with us to develop a financially feasible multi-use plan which would meet the recommendations of the neighborhood, the lease terms of the port, and support Teatro Zinzani's unique cultural mission, all in balance. The concept includes housing for our artists, which, as you know, is in short supply in San Francisco, a boutique hotel, a restaurant and lounge serving as our lobby, an open public park, backstage areas built into the area and office space, and our Teatro Zinzani tent, which we'll put in a glass gazebo at the edge of the building, much like a ballroom would be at a hotel, and it'll be entirely glass so that our backstage corridors during the show will be completely transparent to people walking along Embarcadero. So if you're walking along, you'll be able to see backstage into the theater while it's operating. This combination made it possible for us to return with a 66-year lease. I do want to thank the neighborhood groups we met with over the last 2 years who've demonstrated their support for the project and a willingness to stay with us during the next design phase, and Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association, Telegraph Hill Dwellers, Chinatown Community Development, North Beach Neighbors, the Sotel Neighbors, the top of Broadway CBD, and of course the Port of San Francisco. And I was surprised in the community meetings that there was actually great ideas that came out of it, things that made us thought. And it was a useful process, and we want to continue it. The 4 suggestions we heard that we stuck to was stay at 40 feet, reawaken the corner of Broadway and Embarcadero so that it serves as a gateway up to North Beach and Chinatown, develop a plan for parking in balance with a transit first policy, and to comply with all the public policies on the waterfront, which all encourage a theater, hotel, green space, and retail. Just as another side note, quickly, is that particular location is very important to us because it was the site of the Clark's Point Wharf, which was the first wharf in San Francisco's history that brought all the 49ers ashore. So it's in fact the first city gate. In 1849, 3 blocks up Broadway, the first circus came to San Francisco, the Rose Circus, where their production of Othello, in addition to having Elizabethan language, also included horseback riding and juggling in order to sell it. And in Montgomery Street, a year later, the first professional theater opened, the National Theater, which was a French vaudeville company that came to San Francisco. In this district is where San Francisco's theatrical traditions began, a tradition that's wildly unique, progressive, and often wonderfully wacky, a tradition that has and will continue to inspire Teatro Zinzani every night. Thank you for consideration of this resolution. I'd like to introduce Annie Jameson.
Hi. I'm Annie Jameson, Chief Operating Officer of Teatro Zinzani. I'm going to shorten mine as well since time is of the essence. So I think the most important thing for you to know is that we've really developed a multitude of relationships with neighbors, vendors, corporations, artists, and we became a destination entertainment experience and a part of the fabric of San Francisco's artistic community. We employed hundreds of Bay Area citizens with waiters, chefs, bartenders, costume makers, technical staff, artists, salespeople, and administrators who all added to the vibrant life of the waterfront. We entertained over 2,000 separate corporate companies and created many, many special and spectacular moments of celebration for our customers. Since we closed in 2011, it's been amazing to receive a vast number of ongoing and daily requests from the public asking us when we will return to San Francisco. Phone calls, social media, and letters, including one missive from a fan who wrote, "I am counting the minutes until our beloved Teatro Zinzanni is once again with us in San Francisco." One more holiday season, New Year's, birthday, or romantic night out without you is one too many. Our goal in this hiatus has been to keep in touch with our audience and the community, remaining hopeful that we would see the day when we would announce our return. Now we have a plan. This unique partnership with Kenwood Investments and Teatro Zinzanni creates a unique business model where one hand feeds the other. Teatro Zinzanni will drive business to the hotel, and the hotel will drive business to Teatro Zinzanni, and together we will steer business to the surrounding community. A marriage between business and culture, a new way of art and business to flourish. As part of our community support, I'm submitting this packet of community organization support letters and a list of over 3,500 San Francisco local supporters. The energy behind this venture is palpable. It is time to return love, chaos, and dinner to San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a quick question. How many presentations do we have on this item?
I'm the last.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair and other supervisors, my name is Darius Anderson with Kenwood Investments. I just want to say on behalf of the investment group that we couldn't be more excited about working with TZ and everybody that they're involved with. When Norm called over 2 years ago and said that they had come to a sort of roadblock in moving forward, we jumped at the opportunity, having had many great nights in the theater and knowing that it was a cultural asset that many San Franciscans, as well as thousands of people around the Bay Area, got to enjoy. And so we are fully committed to the project from today until completion. And I also want to say on behalf of Kenwood, we're very excited that we've signed a deal with Local 2, and we look forward to working with the union as we progress on the project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Excellent news. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. There's a couple questions that we have to direct to the port. Supervisor Kim?
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say that I absolutely do support the details of the proposal that are before us. I appreciate the community outreach that occurred, and I also appreciate Teatro's patience through this process of displacement, as we go through the planning process to rebuild. And I think that Seawall Lot 324, 323 is the right location. I understand how it's going to benefit the neighborhoods that surround it as well, and will attract more tourists and residents and workers to the site, and want to make sure that we are supporting nightlife, entertainment, and the arts on our public properties. And finally, even though this isn't within the purview of our board, appreciate that Kenwood went out of their way to sign an agreement with Local 2. I think that those are all positive things. The question that I have, and this is really for the port, and I know this is very much in the beginning of the process, before the negotiations begin, is always this, it's a policy choice to do a sole source waiver and not do a public RFP process. Historically, at least on this board, I know the board has always pushed back on sole source contracts. I have certainly always pushed back on sole source contracts. I think that there has to be a real legitimate reason for us to not do an RFP. And I guess my question for the port is, I like the proposal. I think that it's a modest proposal that would support the building of Teatro. I get that we can't rebuild the theater without some other development component like a hotel. I like that it's a modest hotel, and I also like that there's going to be 10 units that are reserved for artists. I think that's incredibly important. I guess my question is, why can't we RFP out this proposal? So a proposal that includes the rebuilding of Teatro's theater with hotel, and these 10 rooms. And I can only imagine when this finally comes back to Budget Committee, Harvey Rose's report, which is saying we don't know if this is the best deal for the city or not because it wasn't publicly, competitively RFP'd out.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Brad Benson, Director of Special Projects with the Port, here with Ricky in support of the project. This question about competitive bidding is something that we grappled with as well at the staff level. Throughout the process, we've been focused on relocating Teatro on Port property. We had the experience with the America's Cup of dislocating a lot of very good port tenants. We were able to relocate the large majority of those to other areas of the port property at the time. But with Teatro, they really needed to be in the northern waterfront. They needed a longer-term lease at a new location. They couldn't be at Pier 27 because of the cruise terminal construction. And so that's been our goal. I think it was really Teatro, through the public process and understanding that people didn't want to go with the same form of the facility as existed before, which was the tent structure. People really wanted a permanent facility at Seawall Lot 324. And prior public planning had indicated a neighborhood desire for a hotel use at the site. Teatro went out and they went with a very capable developer that has hotel experience where they had a pre-existing relationship. And that's an important component of a partnership like this. So if the port did go down the path that you're talking about, Supervisor Kim, we do normally a request for qualifications, so we wouldn't be locking in a price for the public land that we're talking about here. We'd be looking for somebody who's qualified to negotiate a deal. We think Kenwood is qualified to build a hotel. And I think that construct would be looking at sort of a forced marriage between Teatro and that developer. It's anybody's guess whether or not that could work. On balance, looking at the community support for the project, looking at the experience at hand and this relationship between Teatro and Kenwood, I think that we thought it was appropriate and the Commission thought it was appropriate for us to bring the waiver request to you. This approach is going to be a much faster approach, and we have other means available to us to get to a fair market value deal, which we would intend to bring back to you. So I think that's our response.
Can you guarantee that we will be getting the best deal that we would have if we had not gone through a competitively bid RFP process or RFQ process?
Yeah, through the process, the port staff is going to be looking at comparable leases for hotels.
No, but my question is, could you guarantee to the board that you couldn't have gotten a better deal through a competitive RFQ process?
So if we did a competitive process for a project like this, normally we would do a request for qualifications.
Right, so RFQ.
And so it's hard to say in terms of a deal which approach would yield a better deal. What the financial terms of this deal are going to be determined by looking at other hotel leases. For instance, at the Port of San Diego, they do a lot of leasing for hotels, and we can look at appraisals for the subject property to determine a fair market value. So there are other ways to get to a fair market value deal through the negotiation.
Is that a requirement, fair market deal versus the best deal?
We're striving
I'm
to
sure
get...
that we will get a fair market deal and that we can compare it. I guess my question is, can you guarantee that we will be getting the best deal not going through a competitive RFQ process? Can you say that to the board if we support a sole source waiver?
No, I can't. I cannot guarantee to you that this path will yield a better deal than a bid deal because we haven't done the bid, so I have nothing to compare it to.
I think that's my difficulty with what's before us today. And while we're early in the process, I feel like it's better to insert ourselves today than when this comes to Budget Committee and then the report comes out. We don't know if this is the best deal for the city or not because we didn't get to examine any other proposals. I actually really like the partners that are involved with Kenwood, so this is not about any individuals that are involved in this. I'm certain that I'm pretty sure if we had an RFQ, they would probably rise up to the top of the list of bidders. And I appreciate all the work that they did in advance of coming to committee. But I just believe as a board where we act as the safeguard for our public properties, that we want to be able to tell our constituents that we were able to get the best deal moving forward from our public site. And I know it's an unusual situation. I'm not sure if there are other situations similar to this where we already know what one of the partners will be, Teatro, which I support. I mean, we displaced them from Pier 27, and so I believe it's our obligation to find them another site. And I also agree that it makes sense for them to have a development partner in order to do that. I just, I feel uncomfortable with a sole source waiver this early on, not being able to guarantee that this is the best deal moving forward.
Is that it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more question. The initial negotiations talked about a 10 to 15-year lease before it became a larger project. What do you anticipate the number of years for this lease to look like?
Typically, for new development on a ground lease, we would do a 66-year lease. That's what's allowed under the Burton Act, and that would be a time that would be sufficient to amortize the amount of investment that's involved here.
Right. So again, even makes me more concerned about doing a sole source bid for such a long-term lease that's not, even 10 to 15 years, but a 66-year lease.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Supervisor Rayner, any comments?
So a question for Mr. Benson. Can you just, I know you guys touched on this before, but what if this were not sole source, how would the process proceed? What would we see here?
Well, we've never done something like Supervisor Kim is suggesting. In the absence of any prospective tenant, normally for a development project like this, we would have a concept, say a hotel and entertainment use, developed through the community process, and then we would do a request for qualifications, and we'd be looking for a development partner who's got the experience and the financial capacity to develop the site. And then we would go through, a negotiation where we establish fair market value for the site, looking at comps, using appraisals, other similar mechanisms that are standard for a real estate negotiation, and then bring that through the public approval process through the budget analysts for their review. We very infrequently do an actual RFP where we're bidding price, and particularly we don't usually use an RFP for a development project where costs are sort of unknown at the outset of the process. The developers haven't had a chance to do due diligence. Costs could escalate over the course of the negotiation. The public could demand more public benefits. All of those things affect fair market value, which is why we typically don't do an RFP on price. This would be odd in that we would be saying to prospective development partners that there's an anchor tenant that you must make a long-term financial arrangement with.
Yeah, that was my really. I understand and respect Supervisor Kim's point of view on this, and I think frequently that we would probably all be of a unanimous mind on that. But this seems like a unique situation, given that we're finding this new location for Teatro Cinzani, and to go through that, it's not your normal kind of deal because, as you just said, we're saying this is the tenant, and so I think this is a fairly unique situation. So I'm prepared to support this.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask one more follow-up question? Did you propose to Teatro that they find a development partner on their own before coming to you with a final proposal?
No, I think Teatro really had this pre-existing relationship, and they reached out understanding what the community was looking for in terms of a boutique hotel, and then came to the port with that proposed partnership.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to public comment at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Mr. Yip, before you even start, I have a stack of cards. We're going to go through the cards first. Okay, public comment is now open. All right, I'm going to call off a list of names. Please line up to the right of this chamber.
Just as a reminder, every speaker will have 2 minutes. There will be a soft bell indicating that you have 30 seconds left before your 2-minute time limit is up. First, I have Mr. Ian Lewis from Local 2, Kristen Clayton, Jim Cunningham, Erica Gilfeather, and Carolyn Granthier.
Thank you, Supervisors. Ian Lewis, Hotel and Restaurant Workers, Local 2. I appreciate, and I think you're quite right to ask tough questions about a sole source agreement. You're going to hear a lot from public comment about the reasons that this project is quite exceptional. I just want to put this from our perspective. What is most critical here, as you know, for almost 2 decades, the city has required developers on their land to protect the fiduciary interest of the city through labor peace agreements, CODGEC agreements. This project goes way above and beyond that. The developer, from the outset, approached our union with the intent and idea of negotiating an agreement that guarantees good quality jobs, not just at this project, but every project that they develop nationwide going forward. And from our perspective, that really drives home the level of commitment that they have to making this project exactly the kind of project that the port needs more of, the kind of project that brings not just jobs, but good quality living wage jobs to port lands, which have traditionally been the center of good quality living wage jobs in San Francisco, and yet have seen those jobs eroded. Much like the Warriors project a few months ago or a couple of years ago, this is a truly exceptional project that's going to go a long way to leading to the kind of jobs that keep San Francisco affordable for working class people. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Next speaker, please, just come on up. Kristen.
Yes, thank you. My name is Kristen Clayton, and I've been a resident of San Francisco and a professional opera singer for over 22 years, singing in major opera houses in the United States. It's been my privilege in between opera jobs to come home to Teatro ZinZanni to build my craft as a singing actor. I'm so proud to have been influenced by some of the greatest comedians, singers, and circus artists in the world, including such living legends as Joan Baez, Thelma Houston, Lilian Montevecchi, and many others. Today, I represent the many TZ performers from the Bay Area, as well as top artists in their fields from over 21 countries, including most of Europe, Canada, United Kingdom, China, just to name a few. ZinZanni has issued over 720 contracts to artists over the 11 years that we were TZSF. The city has always shown a deep appreciation for great music and a high standard for entertainment. There's a capacity and appetite here for being exposed to new cultures in exactly this modern form of theater. Within the intimacy of the Spiegel tent, when I got to play the character of the diva, the audiences are able to hear operatic sound at an incredibly close proximity. And where else can you go to feel the actual wind of trapeze artists on your face while you're eating dinner? It was amazing to watch as the people began to realize they were not just observing a show, they were actually part of it. And being part of the North Beach Italian community right on Broadway and Embarcadero is perfect for Teatro ZinZanni. The rich cultural, artistic nature of San Francisco is very important. And as employers, they've embraced a sense of family from the very beginning. My children feel welcomed with the staff and administration, and as a mother, that makes my job coming to work truly less of stress, juggling career and family. I love San Francisco and all the wonderful performing opportunities I've had here, but it's ZinZanni that's allowed me to grow and thrive as an artist. So we must have a permanent place.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Jim.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Cunningham. I'm here wearing 2 hats, actually. First is I'm a board member of the Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association, and we've met with Teatro ZinZanni in Kenwood several times. At our recent meeting, I was authorized to come here and say that we support their project and give our endorsement to what they're proposing today, and we support the resolution. We think they'd be a fine addition in return to the San Francisco. I'm also wearing a personal hat. in that I live on Davis Street, and I overlook Broadway between Davis Street and the Embarcadero, which means I look out every morning at that Port's parking lot across the street. And I think Teatro Zinzanni and this whole hotel would be a fine addition to that, and support their project. We look forward to seeing what their actual project turns out to be, the details of it, at which time we would try to, at Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association and in the Golden Gateway Commons area, we would try to work with them for public meetings to let people take a look at what their plans are and hear what they have to say. So as my personal recommendation and that of Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Erica, followed by Carolyn.
Hi, my name is Erica Gilfeather, and I was an aerialist with Zinzanni for 4 years. And my partner Nader Jeevanji also played drums for the show for 2 years. We now live in Berkeley. Every night, Zinzanni offered everyone within its mirrored walls, audience members, performers, servers, musicians, everyone, a chance to consider the best possible version of themselves. For those 3 hours, you could imagine a version of yourself that was stronger, lovelier, wittier, wiser than who you knew yourself to be before. I hung above the audience every night and watched their faces do exactly that. They imagined themselves differently, and we did it right along with them. I'm originally from the Midwest, and I quickly saw there was no better way, no better lens to see the Bay Area through. Whoever you were, whoever you wanted to be, there was a place for you at Zinzanni. You could see that person reflected back at you. A few years later, here I am, and the next version of myself included getting a master's in early childhood development, and I'm now the assistant director of a child care center in Oakland. Nader's getting his PhD in physics. Our feet are very much on the ground. I've had 2 children that are the actual better versions of myself since then. And, I feel like our children might be aerialists, they might be scientists, they might be musicians, they might be educators, but it makes us so proud to be a part of this community that will reflect so much possibility back at them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker will be Carolyn, followed by Stephanie Greenberg, followed by Beaver Bauer, followed by Merv Kassman, followed by Roberto Sanchez, followed by Bill Hansen.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Gauthier. I'm the Vice President of Programs for Bread and Roses Presents, and I'm here to speak in support of Teatro Zinzanni from the point of view of nonprofit and charitable organizations, of which Teatro has been a great supporter. Bread and Roses Presents is a nonprofit which brings free live entertainment to people who do not get entertainment, whether they're isolated because of poverty or physical circumstances. We serve children, adults, and elderly in homeless shelters, hospitals, convalescent homes, schools for special needs children, on and on. We produce 600 shows per year throughout the Bay Area for people who need entertainment. Teatro Zinzanni supported our fundraising efforts by allowing us to use their beautiful tent and outstanding staff for benefit events in 2004, 2007, 2009, 2010, and 2011. Through the generosity of Teatro Zinzanni, we were able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to further our mission and bring hope and healing through live entertainment to our neighbors most in need. Teatro Zinzanni has also helped a variety of other local charities raise over $2 million to support their work in the community. They include the San Francisco Symphony, Huckleberry House, Suicide Prevention League, Chez Panisse Foundation, the San Francisco chapter of the Habitat for Humanity. In addition, they donate 500 tickets a year as auction items for local organizations. Working with the staff has been a privilege because of their professionalism, their enthusiasm, and their generous attitude towards the community. Our donors who live locally return to the tent often and bring their friends, illustrating that Teatro Zinzanni is a venue for Bay Area residents as well as tourists. Bread and Roses Presents also supports the venue having hotel, as we sometimes bring musicians and other entertainers for our benefits and institutional shows. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Stephanie Greenberg, Beaver Bauer, Marv Kassman, Roberto Sanchez, and Bill Hansen.
Hello, Supervisors. My name is Stephanie Greenberg, and I'm a longtime resident of Telegraph Hill, in fact, about 4 blocks from the proposed Teatro site. I'm here today to, on behalf of Sotel Neighbors, we very strongly support Teatro and Kenwood's request for the exclusive right to negotiate for a long-term lease at the seawall lots in question. It was more than 3 years ago that Teatro vacated their home to make way for the America's Cup. I remember a press conference soon thereafter in the lot announcing that they would be relocating to this exact location, and here we are all this time later still waiting to bring them home. We believe that these plans are creative. They've really listened to the community. They've done a lot of outreach. There are many, many, many benefits, not the least of which is reactivating the base of the Broadway corridor, and we know that that has long been an entertainment corridor, and I will just say that we all know and lament the loss of so many entertainment venues in our city just recently, and here we are now trying to bring one back. So I would just urge you to please support the resolution in front of you and help this project move forward, and so we can finally bring Teatro home. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Beaver Bauer. I'm a costume designer in the Bay Area and the designer for Teatro Zinzanni when it was here. I was first going to speak about what I think how Teatro Zinzanni is really the perfect match for the Embarcadero, for the Barbary Coast, how it's a rich and culturally diverse land, and so is Circus. Circus has always embraced the differences of humankind. But now I think I really want to talk about value. And value was brought up, and I think that we can talk about the value of theater. And the theater is a transformative experience. In Zinzanni, the performers transform before your very eyes. But even more wonderful, and I think something particularly unique to Zinzanni, is watching the audience transform. And they all come in with their, I just got off work, leave me alone, I hope you don't pick me out of the audience, whatever they might come in with. But by the end of the night, it's these separate tables, and sometimes put together at separate tables, of people whose barriers break down. And they experience that show. It becomes a whole, and it becomes in a community. And I think in this age of time where the personal electronic device, looking at this little thing in your hand, seems to rule, to go somewhere where you have a community and an experience that enriches you is a value that goes beyond numbers. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a rule, and it's a mean one. It's no applause. But seeing how we are in a room full of thespian, artistic people, what I'd like to suggest is that we do maybe a spirit finger to indicate your support. And the reason why we have a no applause rule is it just speeds up, and I've got a stack of cards, and we've got an agenda. So, it's, like I said, we want to get to the vote. And so please honor the chamber rule that there is no applause. So when you hear something that you like, you can do this. And if you hear something that you don't like, you can do a thumbs down, to be fair. All right, sir. Marv, is it?
Marvin Kassoff is the name.
Okay.
I represent a group called Renew SF. We're neighborhood activists in North Beach and the Northeast area. I've been to a number of the presentations that were made by the developing group. I was struck by the universal support by all the neighborhood groups for this project. I don't know if you are aware of how rare that is, that all the neighborhood groups in North Beach and the waterfront can agree on something. It's exceedingly unusual. We work together with all of these groups. We find support for various projects. We were responsible for the Language of the Birds on the corner of Columbus and Broadway, for the Parklet project on Columbus, and for other projects throughout the area. I was present at these presentations. There was literally no objections to this project. Everybody wants to bring Teatro Zinzanni back. You are balancing really three things. One is the sole sourcing of this project, which may result in perhaps not quite the best deal. You can't guarantee that. But you're balancing that against A, the desire to bring Zinzanni back, and B, the promises that were made to them that they would have first crack at a location nearby. So you have to balance those two things. And what was mentioned by you earlier, it brings evening life to an area where there are only commercial offices. And that's a valuable thing in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next speaker is going to be Roberto Sanchez, followed by Bill Hansen, who will then be followed by Ron Campbell, Trish Herman, and Ben Horn.
Hi, I'm Robert Sanchez. I was working at the Teatro Cinzani for 10 years. I saw so many shows in 10 years. I have a lot of experience to see the people laughing, walking. And then one of my experience they have is when we make the gay parade, they cheering on the Market Street, they do all the costumes, they're really fun. But what I really want to thank you, the Teatro Cinzani, is the make feel as it's my family now. It's a very big, strong family. They put us together on the show. They put the dishwasher on the show. They make us fun of it. Even if we bring a little tiny part of the show, but the people saw that reaction. I said, wow, my cocktail waiters do the can. What is that? And then the dishwasher bring the desserts and then everything. The real dishwasher, the real prep cooks bring it. This is an amazing experience for me working there. And also I wanted to thank you, Teatro Cinzani, to show me how is the hospitality, the American hospitality, because I'm from Mexico. And then when I come here, I saw these beautiful people, and then they feed me. They always give us a family meal, and then we got an opportunity to talk in each other with all the performance, all the beautiful people, like cosmopolitan people coming from around the world. It's an amazing job to work in there. I really wanted to thank you, Norman, to bring me the opportunity, and then I wanted to come to support those guys, and then to bring this beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bill Hansen.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Hannon. I'm a resident of the Gateway. I live 5 blocks from the proposed construction site. I've attended several of the community outreach presentations. The outreach has been very good on this project. Everything I've heard about the size, the scale, the scope of the project is good. I'm here to support the resolution. I look forward to seeing the plans when they're developed. I support the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ron, followed by Trish, followed by Ben, followed by Beverly.
Thank you, supervisors. My name is Ron Campbell. I'm celebrating my 43rd year as a professional actor. I am a lucky man. I feel like Lou Gehrig without the disease. I'm privileged because I have been center stage at Teatro Cinzani performing. In my time at other places, at Cirque du Soleil, center stage, at the Royal Albert Hall, I was always thinking, I hope I can get back to center stage at Teatro Cinzani. When I was center stage at a 4,000-year-old theater with 1,400 seats, the Theater of Epidaurus in Greece, doing Oedipus, I was thinking, boy, I hope I can get back to Teatro Cinzani center stage there. When I was 17 years old doing Mime in the Streets in Piazza San Marco and Piazza Navona in Rome, I was thinking maybe someday there'll be a Teatro Cinzani and I will be center stage there. Why? Because where else but Teatro Cinzani can a performer like myself be able to time a laugh so that a patron does a spit take on his wife? Where else can I throw the first hat to a juggler, not just any juggler, the best juggler on the planet? Where else can I also do a high five playing a character that has no hand to somebody who turns out doesn't have a hand, and we're all laughing? If I was able to put a 360-degree GoPro on my head to show you what it's like to be center stage at Teatro Cinzani, you would see things like this. And I know this won't show up in the transcripts, but you'd see and little kids going. So I want that again, and I want that for San Francisco.
Thank you. Trish Herman? Or she's not here? Okay. Ben?
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Benjamin Horn. I'm the executive director of the Top of Broadway Community Benefit District. I'm here representing our 11-person board of directors, which in turn represent 40 properties, 100-plus businesses, and hundreds of residents nearby. I'm here to speak in favor and in support of the port's request to enter into exclusive negotiations with Teatro ZinZanni and Kenwood Investments for a proposed theater and hotel at Seawall Lot 324. This theater and hotel will provide new positive activation to the community and will act as a gateway to the Broadway and greater North Beach and Chinatown areas. The destination will bring locals and visitors alike and re-energize the area that has long been underutilized. As a representative of the community that will be positively impacted by this project, we urge you to support the resolution before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Beverly Schuper, Joe Ratner, Javion Monroe, and Bruce Kelly. Come on up. Beverly, if you're here. Nope. Okay, we'll go to Joe Ratner.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Ratner. I've only been a resident of San Francisco for about 4 years, but my family goes back 4 generations. My grandfather and mother were born here, and I have a lot of very close ties and a lot of relatives in the city. And when I was visiting, before moving back here, I always, going to Teatro ZinZanni was always a highlight of my visit. And I think they really fit beautifully into the sort of bohemian history of San Francisco, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity for my younger daughters to attend their camp, which my teenager enjoyed very much right after we moved here. But as far as the comments about the sole source negotiating, while it might be true that you won't know if you have the very best deal that you can get, you will have a fair market deal, and you will be supporting the return of ZinZanni, which is something that they were told would happen when they left, and supporting the arts and the diversity of the city. And I think sometimes we can lose sight of the fact that, particularly today, if we're strictly looking at the bottom line and the very best price that you can get for any of the resources of the city, that we can price out the more artistic elements of the city. And trying to have ZinZanni forced to partner with somebody that's not a big supporter but comes in because of a financial benefit, I think would be a detriment to their artistic advancement in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Javion Monroe, Bruce Kelly, followed by Carl Theobald, Karen Quest, and Joe Orich.
Hi, I'm Jarian Monroe.
Oh.
I'm a native of the South Bay, born and raised in Saratoga. I've been an actor for 44 years. I've had a lot of fun, but the most fun I've ever had was with Teatro ZinZanni a couple of years ago. And I'm going to shorten my speech. I just want to emphasize that I think the sole source thing has something to do with trust and mutual trust, and you may want to consider that in your deliberations. Other than that, I'd just like to say, bring it here, bring it back, bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Bruce Kelly.
It's great speakers. My name is Bruce Kelly. I'm a Bay Area businessman. I live in the Far East Bay over in Danville, but I like to come to San Francisco and spend my money. I was here for $8 yesterday. I've got clients all over the Bay Area, and one of the pleasures I had was to bring my clients and my friends, including some of the members of our world champion San Francisco Giants, to the show, and to watch them experience something that I've not seen ever. When I talk about world-class performances, it's Teatro ZinZanni. I can't express how many people I run into every day when I will mention Teatro Zanzani, they'll say, when are they coming back? And I'll say soon. Because everybody, without exception, who's been to this show comes back with an experience that's just priceless. And so I look forward to you guys giving them the thumbs up and bringing another world-class performer back to San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl Theobald, Karen Quest, Joe Orich, Bobby Evans, Gail Gilman.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to talk about the way that Teatro Zanzani supports local artists as well as artists from all over the world. People that, went to school for art, went to school for music, went to school for, just in this room there are world-class opera singers, world-class jugglers, world-class everything. There is a dying art community here in San Francisco. With the rise of the tech boom, and Beaver Bauer talked about this, the rise of the tech boom, there's this bottom has dropped out of San Francisco in the art community. I would urge you to not let San Francisco let the art community die because of the tech boom. Be responsible for the raising back of the art community in spite of the tech boom. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Quest.
Thank you. Well, my three favorite words in the world are when I hear a kid say, "I did it." The educational arm of Teatro Zanzani affords children an opportunity to learn skills and concepts of theater and circus in a safe, creative, fun, playful environment. They may not choose theater as their life's work any more than playing soccer will lead them to a career in professional sports, but what an enormous contribution to a child's life. The benefits of learning circus arts are detailed in the handout that I brought. Hope you got it. Social, emotional, cognitive development, and physical development. These are non-competitive skills focusing only on each child's development at their own pace. I have been teaching circus and theater in San Francisco for over 30 years with such San Francisco cultural institutions as the Pickle Family Circus, which is why I moved here to San Francisco, Make a Circus, and Teatro Zanzani. Any opportunity to encourage, nurture, inspire, and embolden children is a sacred privilege and an honor for which I am so grateful. Teatro Zanzani gives back to the community by offering workshops and summer camps, including scholarships for children in need. Just bring them back.
Thank you. Joe, Bobby Evans, Gail Gilman, Felicia McSomething.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Joe Orach, and I was a lead act in Teatro Zanzani for 7 years. And there are so many reasons to bring TZ back, but for me, the most important thing is the community, the relationships. TZ is a family. It's not just a job that you go to. Norm and Annie have created this amazing family. And as a performer who's performed all over the world, there's been no other experience like Teatro Zanzani. And I was able to bring my family out here. My daughters went to School of the Arts in San Francisco. My other daughter went to San Francisco State University, all because of TZ. I got to come out here from New York City. I didn't think there was any life outside of New York City, and here I am in San Francisco, and it's the most wonderful place, and Teatro Zanzani made that all possible for me, and the relationships. And to leave the theater, people say that you have a good show when the audience doesn't leave necessarily talking about you, but they leave talking about themselves. And night after night, the comments, the audiences from all over the world would come up and tell you, reminisce about stories that they could relate to in their life. So I, along with many other people, agree that you must bring Teatro Zanzani back. I am not working for TZ now, but people come up to me and still ask me, when is TZ coming back? So I urge you, really, to bring them back. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby Evans, Gail Gilman, Flicka McGurran, Leslie Kay.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Gail Gilman. I've been a resident of North Beach for over 15 years. I'm also on the board of directors at the Top of Broadway CBD. And I think there's no dispute that this project has overwhelming community support. And I'm sure that each and every one of you and all of your colleagues want to bring TZ home. I think the issue facing you today is around sole sourcing of a contract. As someone whose day job is the executive director of the Community Housing Partnership, who deals with contracting with the city all the time, one thing I want to point out, particularly on a development deal, is that partnership is everything. I think it would be a detriment to the city if there was a process that took place that paired TZ with a developer they were not familiar with, a developer who didn't share their goals and values or their vision for the site. As someone who's been in partnerships, they're rocky, they're hard, particularly when you're building from the ground up, whether it's a hotel or affordable housing. While I know it's unusual and may not be the best practice for the port to sole source this contract, I really urge you to allow this to move forward. The partnership between all parties is what makes a development deal possible. It's what makes it happen in a way that's good for the community, and the extensive outreach that Kenwood Investments has done over the last 3 years is unprecedented. I hope you'll vote to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Flicka. Hi.
Good afternoon. I'm Flicka McGurran. I have Pier 23 Cafe on the waterfront, and I've been on the waterfront for over 30 years. Teatro Zinzani was my neighbor all the time that they were in San Francisco, and of course, we want them to come back. They should have come back a long time ago. They were promised to be able to come back. They were promised a spot, and this situation has been dragging on, and I admire Teatro Zinzani for sticking with it and trying to make it work. And all I can say is that red tape and bureaucracy are good friends of mine, and it's a very frustrating situation to try to get things done in the city, and I think that they should be fast-tracked because they offer a lot to San Francisco, and I think that San Francisco government should respect that. Thank you.
Leslie Kay.
Hi, I'm Leslie Kay. I've lived in San Francisco about 38 years. I worked in North Beach for 27. I think you've heard all the stories about Teatro Zinzani. I went many times. I think if they had remained, they would have still been thriving, similar to Beach Blanket Babylon. You know, their show just creates a lot of excitement for everybody who visits and for the locals. I think the question is how to bring them back, and I think that if you do a permanent situation for them, they would continue to thrive the way they would have if they had stayed. And I think that that would make it a better permanent location for them to do it that way. And it really warms up the wharf, gives jobs to all the actors and performers, but also brings a lot to the businesses in San Francisco. I think we would continue to see a lot of business and keep the wharf, North Beach area very, very lively and vital. That's it.
Thank you. The next speakers will be Charles Higgins, Paul Pendergast, Tom McCarthy.
Good afternoon. I'm Charles Higgins. I'm born and raised in San Francisco and used to kick around North Beach as a child, and so I'm familiar with the site. I've only been to Teatro Zinzani once, and I believe I had food spilled on me, but I still like it. I think it's truly an innovative concept. It's a creative and colorful use of a very high visibility site. And I think in regard to the sole source waiver, I think the comments about avoiding a forced marriage and the need to avoid delay further are really critical. We're at a time when artists are just leaving the city or they've already gone. So doing a project that is sooner rather than later that brings them back and supports the community, I think is critical. Thank you for consideration.
Right. Thank you. Paul Pendergast.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Paul Pendergast. I wear a number of hats, but I'm a board member of the Golden Gate Business Association, which is the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. I'm also delegate to the San Francisco Small Business Network, which is a combination of 14 different chambers of commerce. But I'm here as a small business owner because I think this is the ultimate San Francisco small business success story. Teatro Zinzani will not only create businesses that are sustainable to support them throughout the run of their business, but those are actually businesses that are going to be uniquely qualified to the great, enormously characteristic character of Teatro Zinzanni. Number two is the fact that Teatro Zinzanni has been a fantastic neighbor to the business community, whether it's the Council of District Merchants, to the Chamber, to the African American Chamber, and so forth. So they actually were our friends and our neighbors before they even needed our support. Kenwood Investments. Kenwood has been working with the African American, Asian American, LGBT, Native American, disabled veteran businesses long before they needed our support on this project. So I really want to underscore that it's when the chips are down that most people come running to us, but small business has been a real good stakeholder with these two entities. And secondly, I really want to underscore the fact that it's about sustainable jobs, and the fact that these artists, over 120 of them, are going to have long-term sustainable jobs here in San Francisco from a micro business perspective is exactly the type of business that the Board of Supervisors wants to develop and sustain. So small business loves Teatro Zinzanni. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom McCarthy.
Yeah, Tom McCarthy. I'm a resident of this part of town going back many years. I'm also a member and office holder in the Carpenters Union here in San Francisco for quite a while. I just quickly like to say these folks have a very long, nice history in San Francisco of supporting community, nonprofit community groups that need support and recognition. They've made their space and their performers available to worthy groups in especially the northeastern part of the city, but throughout the city. And they deserve our support. The point that people make that in this time of the kind of money that's flowing into San Francisco, any room we can make for these kind of both capable and very, very helpful people, the better off we all will be. So thank you. Also, they're all good on the union side with the carpenters as well as
Thank you.
the hotel workers.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have exhausted all the speaker cards, and if there's any speakers left that'd like to speak, please do so.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Scalvina, Supervisor Malik Cohen, and most respectful highness of Supervisor Jim Kim. Broadway, Graham, I go to the Wells Fargo Bank all the time to check my account balance inside and make everybody happy. For the teller, banker, they feel so sad. They're at the corner of Broadway, the topless show bar, the bottomless show bar, and have them to stand in front of the customer, pretend they don't know anything about that topless, bottomless show girls behind them. See? Then I was saying openly in the Portsmouth Square Park in Chinatown, say, no pornography, no short-term pornography, no long-term pornography, no cancer-causing pornography. The Sergeant General of Public Health has determined that pornographic material are dangerous to personal health, family health, public health. Please turn a different direction to engage on to join force with holiness, join force with short-term holiness, join force with long-term holiness, and join force with healthy cause of holiness. For such a pornographic thing, everything in city that became legal has no value to our citizen people. We should have better go and value, see, but better go to face a higher degree of angle. Look at the sun. Even the sun can buy a dark side of mind. So why do you have to look at this stage curve of topless progress?
Next speaker, please.
Committee and Madam Chair, my name is Stephen Peraldi. I'm a San Francisco native, and I'm in support of the proposition. I would like to encourage you to pass the proposal. I would view this as a risk prevention mitigation process more than a precedent-setting sole source motion. As explained by the Port Authority, unions, committees, groups, and businesses, the fair market value process is in fact a process designed to protect the city regardless of the qualification process in the aforementioned case. I propose that this risk mitigation is considered strongly because you never know the risks that you'll induce by going through this other process. Right now you have a lot of goodwill in the city over something that is very rare and hard to get. Forcing a marriage may have a long-term negative impact in terms of the intensity and the sincerity of the low-term bidder who might win this qualification process. I think every party here has shown their diligence, support, and clarity in making this project come forward, and I highly recommend you take to create another legend in San Francisco. Please pass this proposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that'd like to speak on item number 2? Okay, seeing none, public comment is closed at this time. The matter is back in the hands of the committee. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. I want to appreciate all the public comment that came out today, and it's really clear that the outreach was very impressive, given the turnout that came and the diversity of support. It still did not really address the questions and concerns that I had. One, as stewards of public land, ensuring that we are getting a deal that really brings back the highest value, that includes teatro. I think everyone's in agreement that TZ should be on the site and that a hotel could support the building of that theater. No one opposes that proposal. I just, I have a hard time with the fact that we don't know what an RFQ could bring forward. And while it's unusual to do this type of RFQ, I also hear from the port that it's not impossible to bring forward an RFQ that has a partner that's already been identified. I really did appreciate the comments about what a good partnership looks like. Again, we don't know what an RFQ would not bring about a good partnership. And while I think the forced marriage rationale is a reason, I'm not sure if it's compelling enough to waive the sole source. But what I would feel comfortable doing, I don't want to delay the process. I would like to move this forward out of Land Use Committee. I'd like to have a little bit more time to talk with the port about this process, and I'd like to move it out without recommendation to the full board. And I may support this on Tuesday. I would just like to have a little bit more time to understand all of the processes. But I do want to appreciate the clearly immense work that went into before the proposal came before the board. It's really clear from the outreach. We have a lot of projects come before us, and there was clearly a lot of support from the neighborhood for this project, and I'm really happy to see that.
Thank you, Supervisor Wiener.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank all the members of the public and all the performers and everyone else who came out today. Having participated in several different significant land use matters from this particular geographic area of the city, which is one of our most breathtaking and beautiful and historic areas, the fact that we would have literally not a single dissenting voice here today is pretty extraordinary, and I think speaks volumes in terms of the neighborhood groups, but also labor and just a broad array of people who understand the importance of bringing Teatro Zinzanni back. And I agree with some of the comments that were made that the length of time it's taken to even get to this point is really unfortunate. We should have really been able to bring or keep the commitment we made more quickly than we are now doing so. But with that said, we are where we are. Our municipal code gives us the power in exceptional circumstances to allow for a sole source contract, and that is something that we have the power to do. It is something that it is not some sort of even though it's the exception, not the rule. There's nothing irregular about it. This has been a extremely publicly vetted, transparent process. It's not one of those situations where someone's trying to sneak a sole source bidder in the dark of night, and you could clearly get a better deal elsewhere. In terms of, I agree with Supervisor Kim that we, of course, on with our city assets, we want to make sure that we're maximizing value for the city. But value for the city is not just about dollars and cents. It's also about the cultural life of this city and a revered community institution that, frankly, we are lucky did not just disappear. I don't know if we realize how lucky we are that Teatro Zinzanni actually can come back, because you can envision many scenarios where it has to leave, it closes down, and then it just sort of dissipates. And that didn't happen here because of the strength of this institution and the incredible community support. And so I am very supportive of moving this forward. And I'm frankly not comfortable moving it out of committee without recommendation. I think that this committee should endorse this measure, and so I make a motion to forward this item number 2, to the full board with positive recommendation.
I just want to say a couple words. First, just want to recognize the incredible hard work that the port has put into this. Thank you very much for helping the city to honor its word, the word that it gave to the company, Teatro Zinzini. I have to tell you that I'm a native San Franciscan, and I'm ashamed to say that I've never attended a performance. So you most certainly must come back now so that we can all attend. I want to acknowledge the creative team, the creative director. I want to encourage you to come hang out with us in City Hall. We've got eclectic and eccentric personalities here. There might be some material for a show. I always joke that this is real reality TV. You just come and spend a couple hours with us in committee or in the chamber or in the office or office hours, and you will see a show, without a doubt. So we're at a little bit of an interesting impasse here. Supervisor Kim is interested in passing this measure forward without a recommendation, and Supervisor Wiener wants to pass it out with a positive recommendation. So I am actually going to ask if Supervisor Kim wanted to make a motion to see if there was
Yeah, my motion is to move this forward without recommendation.
Okay. Is there a second for this motion? Okay, I think this motion passes. Dies. Is there another motion to consider?
Excuse me, Supervisor. Would you, Madam Chair, would you like to take a roll call on the item instead?
I'm sorry.
I think
correct. Yes.
Point of information. I believe that there was no second, so it failed for lack of a second.
Okay.
There was no
an
vote.
option.
Yeah.
Deputy City Attorney John Givner. In a 3-person committee, a motion does not require a second.
Okay. So thank you for the point of clarification. A 3-committee member does not require a second. So let's do a roll call vote.
Point of information. The first motion was the motion that I made, which is to move it forward with positive recommendation. So I don't know if there's a rule about which order you vote.
The board rules don't specify the order. Traditionally, the board acts on motions in the order that they're made, but it's in the discretion of the chair the order in which to take the vote.
So actually, I heard when Supervisor Kim made her statement, I interpreted it as an emotion that she was making, and then I asked her to reiterate it. So I believe that she made the motion before you.
Okay. Well, then to the chair, then I would ask, rather than have a vote on Supervisor Kim's, if I could, perhaps the chair could state her view, since the other 2 members have, and then we can know.
So I believe that we as a city need to be doing honoring the promises and the commitments that we made. I'm very sensitive to the points that Supervisor Kim is making, a general concern when it comes to process. I think we're all of like mind. We don't want any favoritism. We don't want any well-heeled people to get a better deal than the average person. However, I also believe that given the economic climate that we're in and how we are losing all the wonderful elements that make San Francisco, I do believe that this warrants some special consideration. I'm happy to support this motion to move forward out of committee with a positive recommendation. So is there a motion?
That's the motion I made.
That's the motion.
Okay. So I will be voting against the motion today. It doesn't mean that I won't be supporting it on Tuesday. I just don't feel comfortable at this time with the information that I have thus far. And again, I just have to reiterate, it's not because I don't support the arts or teatro. I think that we could have potentially an RFQ process that supports this very important institution in San Francisco, but also ensures that we are being public stewards for our public lands and is ensuring the best deal possible moving forward. But I'm really open to the dialogue over the course of the week before this comes back to the full board on Tuesday.
Excellent, fair enough. So there's a motion made by Supervisor Wiener to move this item forward with a positive recommendation. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Supervisor Kim?
No.
Kim, no. Supervisor Wiener?
Yes.
Wiener, yes. And Chair Cohen?
Yes.
Yes. You have 2 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you. This motion passes with a positive recommendation to the full board. Okay, you can clap. All right. Madam Clerk, could you please call item number 3?
Yes. Item number 3 is an ordinance amending the planning code to change the designation of 149 through 155 9th Street, also known as the Western Manufacturing Company Building.
Okay, Supervisor Kim is the maker of this item, and we will hear from her first.
Thank you. I just want to make a motion to continue this item 2 weeks to May 11th. There was something that was discovered by the project sponsor Thursday of last week, and we need to craft the language to insert that amendment into this ordinance. And we did reach out to both the project sponsor and the planning department, and they have all agreed to a 2-week continuance.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Jonathan Lammers is here to make a presentation on this item.
The department supports the continuance.
Thank you very much. Let's take public comment on this item. Seeing no public comment is closed. The chair will entertain a motion to continue the item.
To May 11th.
To May 11th. Without objection, this motion passes. Thank you. Madam, yes, I did take public comment. Madam Clerk, is there anything else on this agenda?
There's no further business.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.